The first time Katherine Rose saw the blood on her own hands and could not stop it, she knew something inside her had broken beyond repair. The year was 1878, and the New Mexico Territory town of Truth, or Consequences, had just started calling itself that after the old Spanish name fell out of favor with the American settlers. The town sprawled along the Rio Grande, a collection of adobe buildings and wooden structures that served the ranchers, miners, and drifters who passed through. Katherine had arrived 3 years prior, a young woman of 20 with a leather medical bag and enough knowledge to make her indispensable. Now, at 23, she was the only healer for 50 miles in any direction, and people depended on her with a desperation that sometimes felt like drowning. But on that particular September morning, when she had awakened from another nightmare about the wagon accident that had killed her parents and younger brother 5 years ago, Katherine had looked at her reflection in the cracked mirror above her wash basin and seen a stranger. The dark circles under her green eyes had deepened. Her auburn hair, usually pinned neatly back, hung in tangles around her too thin face. She was exhausted in a way that sleep could not fix, haunted by every patient she had lost, every wound she could not close, every fever she could not break. The knock came at her door just after dawn. Katherine pulled on her day dress and grabbed her medical bag, not bothering with breakfast. She never had an appetite anymore. "Miss Rose, please, you have got to come quick," gasped Maria Santos, one of the Mexican women who lived on the edge of town. "My husband, he was kicked by the horse. His leg, there is so much blood." Katherine followed Maria through the dusty streets, past the general store and the saloon that never seemed to close, to the small house where Maria's family lived. Inside, she found exactly what she had expected. The man's leg was badly broken, bone protruding through the skin, blood pooling on the dirt floor. She worked quickly, methodically, doing what she had been taught by the old doctor who had taken her in after her family died. She cleaned the wound, set the bone as best she could, and stitched the torn flesh with steady hands that showed none of the trembling she felt inside. "He will live," she told Maria, though she was not entirely certain. Infection could set in. The bone might not heal properly. But Maria needed hope, so Katherine gave it to her, even though she had none left for herself. She walked back to her small house behind the church, where Father Miguel let her live in exchange for tending to the sick among his congregation. The sun was climbing higher now, turning the desert air hot and dry. Katherine felt as parched as the land around her, as if something vital had been leached from her soul. She was washing the blood from her hands when she heard the commotion in the street. Raised voices, the sound of horses, and then someone calling her name. She dried her hands and stepped outside, shading her eyes against the bright light. A group of men stood in front of the general store. One of them was gesturing wildly, and the others were looking in her direction. Katherine recognized the store owner, Samuel Porter, hurrying toward her. "Miss Rose, we need your help. There has been a man shot up in the mountains. Some of the boys are bringing him down now." Katherine felt the familiar weight settle over her, that crushing responsibility she could never escape. "Bring him to my house. I will prepare." She spent the next 20 minutes laying out her instruments, boiling water, tearing clean cloth into bandages. Her hands moved automatically, but her mind was somewhere else, somewhere dark and cold where she had been living for months now. She thought about her mother, who had been so warm and loving. She thought about her father, who had taught her to read and write and believe she could do anything. She thought about her little brother, only 8 years old when the wagon wheel had broken and sent them all tumbling down the ravine. She had been the only one to crawl out alive. The men arrived carrying a makeshift stretcher. On it lay a man Katherine had never seen before, and even unconscious and covered in blood, he was unlike anyone she had ever encountered. He was massive, well over 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and arms thick with muscle. His hair was dark brown and fell past his shoulders, matted now with dirt and blood. His face was obscured by a thick beard, but she could see the strong line of his jaw, the prominent cheekbones. He wore buckskin clothes that marked him as a mountain man, one of those solitary trappers who lived up in the high country and rarely came down to civilization. "What happened?" Katherine asked, already cutting away his shirt to assess the damage. "We found him like this, half a mile up the trail," said one of the men. "Looks like he was shot, probably by someone trying to rob him. He was still alive when we came across him, but he has lost a lot of blood." Katherine could see that. The bullet had entered his left side, just below the ribs. She probed gently, trying to determine if the bullet was still lodged inside or if it had passed through. The man groaned but did not wake. "Everyone out," she said firmly. "I need room to work." The men filed out, and Katherine was left alone with her patient. She worked quickly, her training taking over. The bullet had lodged against a rib, and she had to dig it out with her forceps, a delicate operation that made sweat break out on her forehead despite the coolness of the room. When she finally extracted the misshapen piece of lead, she cleaned the wound thoroughly and stitched it closed with small, precise stitches. Then she bandaged his torso and covered him with a clean blanket. He did not wake during any of it, which worried her. She felt for his pulse and found it steady but weak. His skin was too pale beneath his sun-darkened complexion. She would have to watch him carefully for signs of infection or internal bleeding. Katherine pulled up a chair beside the bed and sat down heavily. She was exhausted, but she could not rest. If this man died in her care, it would be another failure to add to the growing list. Another person she could not save. Another reason to hate herself. She looked at his face, studying the features that were visible beneath the beard. He was younger than she had first thought, probably no more than 28 or 29. There were scars on his chest and arms, old wounds that had healed long ago. He was a man who had lived a hard life, she could tell that much. But there was something else, something she could not quite name. Even unconscious, he had a presence, a solidity that filled the room. The day stretched into evening. Katherine stayed beside the bed, checking his pulse and breathing regularly. She gave him water when he stirred, dribbling it between his lips. She changed his bandages when blood seeped through. She did everything she had been taught to do, but she felt nothing. No satisfaction, no hope, just the mechanical motions of her profession. Night fell, and still he did not wake. Katherine lit the oil lamps and continued her vigil. She thought about going to sleep, but the nightmares would only come. They always did. So she sat in the chair and watched the rise and fall of his chest, counting his breaths to keep herself awake. It was just after midnight when his eyes finally opened. They were gray, she noticed, the color of storm clouds. He looked around the room, clearly disoriented, and then his gaze settled on her. "Where am I?" His voice was rough, barely more than a whisper. "Truth or consequences, New Mexico territory," Katherine said. "You were shot. Some men found you and brought you to me. I am the healer here." He tried to sit up, but she put a hand on his chest, gently pushing him back down. "Do not move, you will tear your stitches." He relaxed, though she could feel the tension in his muscles. He was a man unaccustomed to being helpless, she realized. "What is your name?" she asked. "Cole," he said after a moment. "Cole Barrett." "I am Katherine Rose. You are lucky to be alive, Mr. Barrett. The bullet missed anything vital, but you lost a lot of blood." "How long have I been here?" "About 14 hours. You need to rest and let your body heal. It will be several days before you are strong enough to move around." Cole closed his eyes, and for a moment Katherine thought he had fallen back asleep. But then he spoke again. "Thank you for saving my life." "That is what I do," Katherine said, and was surprised by the bitterness in her own voice. His eyes opened again, and he looked at her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. It was as if he could see right through her, past the competent exterior to the broken woman underneath. "How long since you slept?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. "That is none of your concern. You look like you are about to fall over. I am fine." "No," Cole said quietly, "you are not." Katherine stood up abruptly, angry at this stranger who thought he could read her so easily. "I will check on you in the morning. Try to sleep." She left the room, closing the door behind her perhaps more forcefully than necessary. She went to her own small bedroom and lay down on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. The anger drained away as quickly as it had come, leaving only the familiar emptiness. Sleep eventually claimed her, and with it came the dreams. She was in the wagon again, her father driving, her mother singing softly beside him. Her brother was laughing at something, his face bright with joy. Then the wheels snapped and they were falling, tumbling, the world spinning around them. She heard her mother scream, her father shout, her brother cry out her name, and then silence. Terrible, absolute silence. She woke with a gasp, her heart pounding. The room was still dark, but she could see the first hints of dawn through the window. She had slept perhaps 4 hours. It would have to be enough. Katherine washed her face and changed into a fresh dress. She braided her hair and pinned it up, trying to look presentable. Then she went to check on her patient. Cole was awake, watching the door as she entered. His color was better, she noted with professional satisfaction. His breathing was easier. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I was shot," he said, and there was a hint of humor in his voice. Katherine felt her lips twitch, almost forming a smile. "Almost. Can you tell me what happened?" "Who shot you?" Cole shifted carefully, wincing at the pain. "I was coming down from my camp in the mountains. I trap beaver and sell the pelts. There were 2 men on the trail. They demanded my furs and my money. When I refused, they shot me. Did you know them?" "Never seen them before." "They rode off after they shot me, probably figured I would die and they could come back for my things later." "Where are your furs now?" "Hidden. I have got a camp about 2 miles up the trail. If I make it through this, I will go back for them." "You will make it through this," Katherine said. "The wound is clean and there is no sign of infection so far. You just need to rest and let your body heal." "You are good at what you do," Cole observed, watching her change his bandages with practiced efficiency. "I have had plenty of practice. How did you end up here?" This is not exactly a place for a young woman alone. Katherine concentrated on her work, not meeting his eyes. "My parents were killed in an accident when I was 18. A doctor in Santa Fe took me in and taught me his trade. When he died 2 years later, I came here because they needed a healer." "And you have been here ever since?" "Yes." "Do you like it?" The question was simple, but it hit Katherine like a physical blow. Like it? She could not remember the last time she had liked anything. She could not remember the last time she had felt anything but this crushing weight of responsibility and guilt. "It does not matter if I like it," she said finally. "People need me." "That is not an answer." Katherine tied off the last bandage and stepped back. "You should eat something." "I will bring you some broth." She left before he could ask any more questions. In the small kitchen area, she heated up some beef broth she had made the day before. Her hands shook slightly as she poured it into a bowl. Why did this man unsettle her so much? She had treated hundreds of patients over the years, had conversations with countless people. But something about Cole Barrett got under her skin. When she brought the broth back, she helped him sit up carefully, propping pillows behind his back. He took the bowl from her and ate slowly, watching her the whole time. "Tell me about yourself," he said between sips. "There is nothing to tell. Everyone has a story. Mine is not very interesting. I work. That is all. No friends, no family. No, that is lonely." Katherine felt something twist in her chest. "I prefer it that way." Cole finished the broth and handed the bowl back to her. "You are a terrible liar. You do not know anything about me. I know you have not slept properly in months. I know you are working yourself into the ground. I know you are carrying something heavy, something that is crushing you from the inside out." Katherine set the bowl down with trembling hands. "Stop it." "Why? Because it is true. Because it is none of your business." Her voice was sharp now, defensive. "You are my patient, that is all. I will heal your body and then you will leave and we will never see each other again. That is how this works." "Maybe," Cole said quietly. "But that does not mean I cannot see what is right in front of me. You are hurting, Katherine. Anyone with eyes could see it." "I am fine," she insisted, but even she could hear the hollowness in her words. "No, you are not. But maybe someday you will be." Katherine did not respond. She could not. The tears were too close to the surface, and she refused to cry in front of this stranger. She gathered up the bowl and left the room, closing the door firmly behind her. The next few days fell into a routine. Katherine checked on Cole 3 times a day, changing his bandages and monitoring his progress. He was healing well, better than she had expected. His strength was returning quickly, testament to his physical fitness and clean living in the mountains. But every time she entered the room, she felt that same unsettling intensity from him, as if he was studying her, trying to understand her. He asked her questions constantly. What had brought her parents to New Mexico? What had her childhood been like? Did she remember how to laugh? The last question had caught her so off guard that she had simply stood there, speechless. Of course she remembered how to laugh. She just had not done it in a very long time. On the 4th day, Cole was strong enough to walk around the room. Katherine watched him carefully, ready to catch him if he fell, but his balance was steady. He moved like a predator, she thought, all controlled power even when injured. "You should not push yourself too hard," she cautioned. "Your body needs time to fully heal." "I have spent enough time lying in bed," Cole said. "I need to move or I will go crazy." "Stubborn," Katherine muttered. "Practical," Cole corrected. "I have a life to get back to, traps to check, furs to sell. You nearly died. But I did not. Thanks to you." Katherine busied herself straightening the already straight blankets on the bed. "You would have died if those men had not found you and brought you here." "Maybe. But you are the one who saved me. You can accept that, can you not?" She did not answer. How could she explain that every success felt hollow, that she could not take pride in saving him because she was too busy remembering all the ones she had lost? Her parents, her brother, the patients who had died despite her best efforts. The guilt was always there, a constant companion. Cole was watching her again with those perceptive gray eyes. "What happened to your family? You said it was an accident, but you did not say what kind." Katherine felt her throat tighten. "I do not talk about it. Maybe you should." "Why? What good would it do?" "Maybe it would help you heal." "I am not the one who needs healing," Katherine said sharply. "You are. We both know that is not true." She turned away from him, angry and confused and feeling far too exposed. "I have other patients to see. I will be back this evening to check on you." She left before he could respond, grabbing her medical bag and escaping into the bright sunlight. She had 3 other patients to visit that day. An elderly woman with a persistent cough, a child with a fever, and a ranch hand who had cut his hand badly while mending a fence. She moved through her rounds mechanically, doing what needed to be done, speaking the necessary words of comfort and instruction. But her mind kept drifting back to Cole Barrett and his uncomfortable questions. That evening, when she returned to check on him, She found him sitting in the chair by the window, looking out at the darkening sky. He had put on a clean shirt that someone must have brought from his camp. It stretched tight across his broad shoulders. "You should not be out of bed," Katherine said automatically. "I am fine. Come here, look at this." She hesitated, then walked over to stand beside him. He pointed out the window at the mountains in the distance, their peaks turning purple in the fading light. "That is where I live," he said. "Up there, where the air is clean and cold and you can see for miles in every direction. It is beautiful country, harsh sometimes, but beautiful." Katherine looked at the mountains and tried to remember the last time she had noticed beauty. "It must be lonely. Sometimes, but it is peaceful too. No one asking questions. No one needing anything from me. Just me and the mountains and the animals." "Then why did you come down?" "To sell my furs. To get supplies. Even a mountain man needs some contact with civilization occasionally." He paused. "And maybe because I was getting too comfortable with the solitude. It is easy to forget how to be around people when you spend too much time alone." Katherine understood that more than she cared to admit. She had been alone for years, surrounded by people but truly alone nonetheless. "Tell me about your life up there," she said, surprising herself. Maybe it was easier to listen to his stories than to think about her own pain. Cole smiled, and she noticed how it transformed his face, making him look younger and less intimidating. "I wake up before dawn most days. Check my trap lines, which can take hours depending on the season. In the winter, I am on snowshoes. Spring and summer, the creeks run high with snowmelt. Fall is when I do most of my hunting, preparing for winter. I have built a cabin out of pine logs. It is small but sturdy. Keeps me warm even in the worst storms. What do you do when you are not working? Read when I have books. Whittle, watch the eagles hunt, listen to the wind in the trees." He looked at her. "It sounds simple, I know, but it is a good life. Do you ever miss having people around, friends?" "Family. My parents died when I was young. I've got a brother somewhere back east, but we have not spoken in years. As for friends, well, I've got a few other trappers I see occasionally. We share a drink, exchange news. That is enough for me." Katherine felt an unexpected kinship with him. They were both alone in the world, both carrying losses. But somehow he seemed to have made peace with his solitude in a way she never had. "You think I am strange," Cole said, reading her expression. "No, I think you have found a way to live that works for you. That is more than most people can say. What about you? Have you found a way to live that works?" There it was again, that probing question that cut too close to the truth. Katherine stepped back from the window, putting distance between them. "I need to check your wound." "Katherine, please, just let me do my job." He sighed but moved to the bed and lifted his shirt so she could examine the wound. It was healing beautifully, the stitches holding firm, no signs of infection. She could probably remove them in a few more days. "You will be able to leave soon," she said, keeping her voice professional. "Another week, perhaps, and you will be strong enough to return to your camp." "What if I do not want to leave?" Her hand stilled on the bandage she was wrapping. "What do you mean?" "What if I wanted to stay here for a while, get to know the town, get to know you?" "That would not be a good idea." "Why not?" "Because there is nothing here for you. You said yourself that you love your life in the mountains. You should go back to it." "Maybe. Or maybe I have found something here worth staying for." Katherine stepped back, her heart beating too fast. "Do not say things like that." "Why? Because it scares you. Because it is not real. You are grateful that I saved your life. That is all this is. Gratitude." Cole sat up carefully, his gray eyes serious. "You think I do not know the difference between gratitude and something more. I am not some boy with a crush, Katherine. I am a grown man who knows what he wants." "You do not know me. Then let me know you. Is that really so terrible?" "Yes," Katherine wanted to say. "Yes, It was terrible because if he truly knew her, he would see what she was. A broken woman who could not heal herself. A coward who hid behind her work because she was too afraid to live. Someone so damaged that she pushed away any possibility of connection because it was easier than risking more loss. But instead, she said, "I need to go. I will see you tomorrow." She fled before he could stop her, before she could say or do something foolish. In her own room, she sat on the edge of her bed and pressed her hands to her face. What was wrong with her? Why did this man affect her so much? She had built such careful walls around herself, and he was threatening to tear them all down with his steady gaze and his uncomfortable questions. The next morning, Katherine woke to the sound of voices outside her house. She dressed quickly and stepped out to find Father Miguel talking with Cole, who was standing in the doorway looking stronger than he had any right to after being shot less than a week ago. "Miss Rose," Father Miguel said, smiling warmly. "I was just thanking Mr. Barrett for his generous donation to the church. He has insisted on paying for his care and then some." "That is not necessary," Katherine said, though she knew her supplies were running low and money was always tight. "It is the least I can do," Cole said. "You saved my life." Father Miguel looked between them, his eyes twinkling with what Katherine recognized as matchmaking interest. The old priest had been trying to convince her to find a husband for years. "Well, I will leave you two to discuss the details. Mr. Barrett, you are welcome to join us for Sunday services if you are still in town." After the priest left, Katherine crossed her arms and looked at Cole. "You should not be walking around this much. You are going to tear your stitches." "They are fine. I feel good, strong." "That does not mean you are fully healed. Katherine, I need to talk to you." "About what?" "About staying." Her stomach tightened. "I told you that is not a good idea. Hear me out, please." When she did not object, he continued. "I have been thinking about what you said about me being grateful. Maybe you are right. Maybe that is part of what I am feeling. But there is more to it than that. When I look at you, I see someone who is drowning and I want to help. Not because I owe you, but because I know what it is like to be lost. I am not lost." "Yes, you are. And the worst part is, you do not even realize it. You are so busy taking care of everyone else that you have forgotten how to take care of yourself." Katherine felt tears prickling her eyes. "Please stop." "Why? Because it hurts to hear the truth." "Because I cannot do this. I cannot let someone in. Everyone I have ever loved has left me. My parents, my brother, even the doctor who taught me. Everyone leaves and I cannot go through that again." Cole took a step closer, his voice gentle. "I am not asking you to love me, not yet. I am just asking you to let me be your friend, to let me help you the way you helped me. I do not need help. Everyone needs help sometimes. There is no shame in that." Katherine looked up at him, at this big, strong man who somehow saw through all her defenses. "I do not know how to do this. I have been alone for so long. Then we will figure it out together. One day at a time. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other." "Can you do that?" She wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed at her to push him away, to protect herself. But there was something in his eyes, a kindness and patience that she had not seen in a long time. Maybe he was right. Maybe she had been alone for too long. "I have patience to see today," she said finally. "But you can come with me if you want, if you feel strong enough." Cole smiled, and she felt something shift in her chest, like a tiny crack in the wall she had built around her heart. "I would like that." They spent the day together, Katherine making her rounds while Cole accompanied her. She was surprised by how helpful he was, carrying her bag, fetching water, even helping to hold down a squirming child while she examined a rash. He was gentle despite his size, and people seemed to respond well to his calm presence. As they walked back to her house that evening, Cole asked, "Do you do this every day, see patients?" most days. Unless there is an emergency, then it could be any time, day or night. When do you rest? When I can. That is not an answer, Katherine sighed. I rest when I do not have patience. Is that what you want to hear? I want to hear the truth. When was the last time you took a day just for yourself? No patience, no work, just rest. She could not remember. Years, maybe. It does not matter. This is my life. This is what I chose. Chose, or fell into because you did not know what else to do. The question stung because it was true. After the doctor in Santa Fe died, she had been adrift, desperate for purpose. Coming to truth or consequences had seemed like the answer. But now, standing here with Cole, she realized she had been running from her grief, from her guilt, from the fear of getting close to anyone again. Maybe both, she admitted quietly. They reached her house and Cole stopped at the door. Thank you for letting me come with you today. I enjoyed it. You did? Yes, it was good to see you in your element. You are a gifted healer, Katherine. You should be proud of that. She wanted to argue, to tell him that skill meant nothing when you could not save the people who mattered most. But the words stuck in her throat, and instead she just nodded. Over the next few days, a pattern emerged. Cole would accompany Katherine on her rounds, helping however he could. In the evenings, they would sit on the small porch behind her house and talk. He told her stories about his life in the mountains, about close calls with bears and blizzards, about the beauty of the wilderness. She found herself listening intently, drawn into his tales of a world so different from her own. And slowly, bit by bit, she began to tell him about herself. Not the big things, not yet, but small details. How she had loved to read as a child, how her mother had taught her to sew. How her father had encouraged her curiosity about the world. Cole listened with the same patient attention. He gave everything, never pushing, never demanding more than she was ready to give. On the 10th day after Cole had been brought to her, Katherine removed his stitches. The wound had healed cleanly, leaving only a thin pink scar. He was fully recovered now, strong enough to return to his camp in the mountains. You could leave tomorrow if you wanted, Katherine said, bandaging the area one last time. You are healed. Is that what you want, for me to leave? She looked at him, at this man who had somehow become important to her in such a short time. The thought of him leaving made her chest ache in a way she had not felt in years. I do not know, she said honestly. Then I will stay a while longer, at least until you figure it out. Cole, you have a life to get back to, traps to check, furs to sell. The traps can wait. The furs will keep. Right now I want to be here with you. Katherine felt something warm unfurl in her chest, something that might have been hope. Why do you care so much? Cole reached out and took her hand, his touch gentle despite his calloused palms. Because from the moment I woke up and saw you sitting beside my bed, looking like you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, I knew I needed to know you. Really know you. Not just the healer everyone depends on, but the woman underneath. The one who is hurting and alone and too stubborn to ask for help. I do not know how to let someone help me. Then I will teach you, the same way you taught me that it is okay to need people sometimes. She looked down at their joined hands, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers. It had been so long since anyone had touched her with kindness, with care. I am afraid. I know, but you do not have to be brave all at once. Just take it one moment at a time. That night, Katherine lay in bed and thought about Cole's words. One moment at a time. It seemed impossible. How could she let down her guard when she had spent years building it up? How could she trust someone not to leave when everyone always did? But maybe that was the point. Maybe trust was not about certainty, but about taking a leap of faith. The next morning, Katherine found Cole outside chopping wood for her fireplace. He had taken off his shirt in the heat, and she could not help but notice the play of muscles across his back and shoulders, the strength evident in every movement. When he turned and saw her watching, he smiled. "Morning. I figured you could use some extra firewood. Nights are getting colder." "You do not have to do that." "I want to. Let me help, Katherine, please." She nodded, feeling that same crack in her defenses widen just a little more. "Okay, thank you." "There is something else I wanted to talk to you about," Cole said, setting down the axe and pulling his shirt back on. "I need to go up to my camp and check on things. Gather my furs and supplies, but I do not want to go alone. Would you come with me?" Catherine's first instinct was to refuse. She had patience here, responsibilities. But then she thought about what Cole had said about taking time for herself. When was the last time she had left town, gone somewhere just because she wanted to? "I cannot just leave," she said. "What if someone needs me? We would only be gone 2 days, 3 at most. And Father Miguel knows basic first aid. He could handle any minor emergencies until we return." "I do not know. Think about it, please. I think it would be good for you to get away from here for a little while, see something different, breathe some different air." The idea was both terrifying and appealing. To leave behind the constant demands, the weight of responsibility, even for just a few days. To see the world Cole loved, to understand him better. But it also meant being alone with him, truly alone, and she was not sure she was ready for that. "I will think about it," she said finally. Cole nodded, seeming to understand that was the best he would get for now. Fair enough. Katherine spent the rest of the day torn between practical concerns and something else, something that felt dangerously like excitement. The more she thought about it, the more the idea appealed to her. A trip into the mountains, a break from the routine that had consumed her life for years. Time with Cole away from the prying eyes of the town. That evening she made her decision. She would go. 2 days, she told Cole. That is all I can spare. His face lit up with a smile that made her heart skip. 2 days is perfect. We will leave tomorrow morning early. They set out the next day just after dawn, Cole leading a pack horse laden with supplies. Katherine rode beside him on a gentle mare borrowed from the livery stable. She had left instructions with Father Miguel and several of the women in town who knew basic nursing. It felt strange to leave, almost wrong, but also liberating in a way she had not expected. The trail wound up into the mountains, following a creek that tumbled over rocks and created a constant, soothing music. The air grew cooler as they climbed, scented with pine and sage. Katherine found herself relaxing despite her earlier anxiety. There was something about being away from town, away from her responsibilities, that made her feel lighter. Cole was an easy companion. He pointed out interesting plants and animal tracks, told her the names of the peaks they could see in the distance. He did not push her to talk, seemed content to let the silence stretch comfortable between them. Katherine appreciated that more than she could say. They stopped for lunch beside the creek, and Cole produced bread, cheese, and dried apples from his saddlebags. They ate sitting on sun-warmed rocks, watching the water flow past. "This is beautiful," Katherine said, surprising herself by speaking first. "It is one of my favorite spots. I come here whenever I am heading up or down the mountain. It feels peaceful, does it not?" "Yes." She paused, then added, "I had forgotten what peace felt like." Cole looked at her, his gray eyes serious. "Will you tell me what happened with your family? I know it is painful, but maybe talking about it would help." Katherine's first instinct was to refuse, to shut down the conversation like she always did. But looking at Cole, seeing the genuine care in his expression, she felt something shift. Maybe he was right. Maybe holding it in all these years had only made it worse. "We were traveling," she began, her voice quiet. "My father had gotten a job managing a ranch near Albuquerque. We were excited about the new start, about all the possibilities. I was 18, old enough to appreciate what it meant for our family. My brother, Timothy, was only 8. He was so happy, kept talking about learning to ride horses and rope cattle. She paused, remembering her brother's bright smile, the way his eyes had sparkled with excitement. Cole waited patiently, not interrupting. There was an accident. A wheel on our wagon broke as we were going down a steep section of road. The wagon overturned. My father was killed instantly. My mother lived for a few hours, but there was too much internal damage. Timothy, he was crushed beneath the wagon. I was thrown clear, just some cuts and bruises. I tried to help them, tried to stop the bleeding, but I did not know enough then. I could not save any of them. Tears were streaming down her face now, but she barely noticed. It was the first time she had spoken the full story aloud in 5 years. I laid there with my mother while she died. She told me she loved me. She told me to be strong, to live a good life. And then she was gone, and I was alone with their bodies until someone came along and found us. Cole moved closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. She stiffened for a moment, then let herself lean into his solid warmth. "That is why you became a healer," he said softly. "You were trying to save them. I know I cannot, I know they are gone, but every patient I see, every wound I treat, part of me is thinking that maybe this time I can be good enough, fast enough, smart enough. Maybe this time I can keep someone from dying. Katherine, you know that is impossible. You cannot save everyone. I know that here." She tapped her head. "But not here." She pressed her hand to her heart. "Every person I lose feels like losing them all over again, and I cannot heal myself. I cannot stop the guilt, the feeling that I should have done more, should have known more. You were 18 years old and just as much a victim as they were. You could not have saved them. No one could have. Maybe, but that does not stop me from wishing I could have." They sat in silence for a long time, Katherine crying quietly while Cole held her. It should have felt awkward, this intimacy with someone she had known less than 2 weeks. But somehow, it felt right, like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. When her tears finally subsided, Katherine pulled back and wiped her eyes. "I am sorry, I did not mean to fall apart like that. Do not apologize. You needed to let it out. You have been holding it in for too long. I feel exhausted." "Good. That means you are finally starting to heal." They continued up the mountain, reaching Cole's camp late in the afternoon. His cabin was small but sturdy, built from pine logs and situated in a meadow with a stunning view of the surrounding peaks. There was a creek nearby, and Katherine could see where he had set up various traps along its banks. "It is not much," Cole said as he helped her down from her horse, "but it keeps me warm and dry." "It is wonderful," Katherine said honestly. There was something appealing about the simplicity of it, the way it seemed to fit naturally into the landscape. Cole showed her inside. The single room contained a bed, a table, 2 chairs, a small stove, and shelves lined with supplies and books. It was neat and organized, everything in its place. "You can have the bed," Cole said. "I will sleep outside. I cannot take your bed." "Yes, you can. I have slept under the stars plenty of times. One more night will not hurt me." Katherine wanted to argue, but she could see from his expression that he would not be swayed. "Thank you." That evening, Cole cooked dinner over a fire outside. They ate venison stew and fresh bread, watching the sun set behind the mountains in a spectacular display of orange and pink. Katherine felt more relaxed than she had in years, the tension slowly draining from her shoulders. "Tell me about your family," she said. "You said your parents died when you were young." Cole poked at the fire, sending sparks dancing into the darkening sky. "My father was a trapper like me. My mother died when I was 10, fever took her." My father tried to raise me and my brother on his own, but he was not the same after she was gone. He died when I was 16, fell through ice while checking his traps. I am sorry. It was a long time ago. My brother went back east to live with relatives. I stayed here because this was the only home I knew. Been trapping ever since. Do you ever get lonely? Sometimes. But I have made peace with it. I like the solitude most of the time. It lets me think, lets me be myself without any pretense. He looked at her across the fire. But lately, I have been thinking maybe too much solitude is not good for a person. Maybe we all need someone to connect with, someone who understands us. Katherine felt her heart rate pick up. Cole. I am not pushing. I just want you to know that I see you, Katherine. The real you, not just the healer everyone depends on. And what I see is someone strong and brave and caring, someone who deserves to be happy. I do not know if I remember how to be happy. Then maybe we can figure it out together. They sat by the fire long into the night, talking about everything and nothing. Cole told her about his adventures in the mountains, the challenges and rewards of his solitary life. Katherine found herself opening up more, telling him about her childhood, the good memories before the tragedy. It felt healing, this exchange of stories, this gradual building of trust. When the fire burned down to embers, Cole walked her to the cabin door. Get some rest. Tomorrow I will show you around, let you see what my life is really like up here. Katherine nodded, but before she went inside, she turned back to him. Thank you for bringing me here, for listening, for everything. You do not have to thank me, I am right where I want to be. She went inside, feeling something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Just a small flicker, but it was there, warm in her chest. Maybe Cole was right. Maybe healing was possible, even for a heart as broken as hers. The next morning, Katherine woke to birdsong and the smell of coffee. She dressed quickly and stepped outside to find Cole already up, tending a fire and cooking breakfast. Morning, he said with a smile. How did you sleep? Better than I have in years, she admitted. It was true. She had not had a single nightmare, had slept deeply and dreamlessly. Mountain air will do that. Come eat. Then I will take you on a tour. They spent the morning exploring Cole's trap lines. He showed her how the traps worked, how he checked them and reset them. He pointed out tracks and signs of animals, teaching her to read the forest the way he did. Katherine found it fascinating, this different kind of knowledge, so removed from her medical training but no less valuable. They stopped beside a high mountain lake, its surface mirror smooth and reflecting the surrounding peaks. Cole spread out a blanket and they sat in comfortable silence, just enjoying the view. I understand why you love it here, Katherine said. It is so peaceful, so removed from everything. It is. But I am starting to realize that peace without anyone to share it with is just loneliness by another name. Katherine looked at him, seeing the vulnerability in his expression. This strong, capable man was opening his heart to her, and it terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. What are you saying? She asked, though she thought she knew. I am saying that I care about you, Katherine, more than I have cared about anyone in a long time. I know it has only been a couple of weeks, but that does not change how I feel. You have gotten under my skin in the best possible way. Cole, I am such a mess. I do not even know if I can be what you need. You already are what I need. You just need to see it yourself. You are strong and compassionate and brave. You heal people every day. You just need to learn to heal yourself too. I do not know how. Then let me help you. Let me show you that not everyone leaves, that some people stay even when things are hard. Katherine felt tears welling up again, but these were different. Not tears of grief, but something else, something softer. I am scared. I know, but you do not have to decide everything right now. Just think about it. Think about what you want, not what you think you should want or what everyone else needs from you. What does Katherine Rose want for her life? It was a question she had never allowed herself to ask. Her life had been dictated by circumstances, by loss, by duty. But what did she want? "I want to feel whole again," she said quietly. "I want to wake up without that crushing weight on my chest. I want to remember how to laugh, how to enjoy things. And I think I want someone to share my life with. Someone who sees me, really sees me, and does not run away. I see you, Katherine, and I am not running anywhere." She looked at him, this man who had appeared in her life so unexpectedly, and felt something shift deep inside her. Maybe she was not ready to call it love, not yet. But it was something, a spark of possibility that made her believe healing might actually be possible. "Will you kiss me?" she asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Cole smiled, reaching up to cup her face gently in his large hands. "I thought you would never ask." His lips met hers, soft and warm, and Katherine felt a rush of emotion so intense it almost overwhelmed her. This was different from anything she had experienced before. It was not just attraction, though there was that too. It was connection, understanding, the sense that someone finally saw all of her and accepted it. When they pulled apart, Cole rested his forehead against hers. That was worth waiting for. Katherine laughed, and the sound surprised her. When was the last time she had laughed? She could not remember. It was it not? They spent the rest of the day together, talking and laughing and simply enjoying each other's company. Cole showed her how to fish in the mountain stream, and she caught her first trout, squealing with delight when it jumped on her line. They ate fresh fish for dinner, cooked over the fire, and watched the stars come out one by one. "I do not want to go back tomorrow," Katherine said as they sat by the fire that night. "Then do not. Stay another day." "I cannot. I have responsibilities." "The world will not fall apart if you take one more day for yourself, Katherine. Let Father Miguel handle things. You deserve this time." She thought about it, weighing duty against desire, and for the first time in years she chose herself. "Okay, one more day." Cole's smile was radiant. "Good. I have so much more I want to show you." They stayed 3 more days in the end. Katherine could not bring herself to leave, not when she was finally starting to feel like herself again. They explored the mountains, Cole pointing out hidden waterfalls and secret meadows. They talked for hours, sharing stories and dreams and fears. And they grew closer, the connection between them deepening with each passing day. On the 4th morning, Katherine woke to find Cole watching her from the doorway of the cabin. She was in his bed where she had been sleeping since the 2nd night, and he had moved inside to sleep on the floor near the stove. "What is it?" she asked, noting the serious expression on his face. "I have been thinking about you going back to town." Katherine sat up, pulling the blanket around herself. "I have to go back. I have been gone too long already." "I know. But I do not want you to go back to the way things were, working yourself to death, carrying that weight all alone. So I want to come with you if you will have me." "Come with me? You mean leave here?" "For a while, yes. I can set up in town, maybe do some work as a blacksmith or carpenter, something to be useful. And I can be there for you, help carry some of that burden you have been carrying alone for so long." Katherine felt emotion welling up in her throat. "You would leave your home for me. This place will always be here. But you, Katherine, you are something special, something worth changing my life for, if you will have me." She got out of bed and crossed to him, wrapping her arms around his solid waist. "Yes, yes, I will have you. I do not know how this will work or what people will think, but I want you with me." Cole held her close, and Katherine felt a peace settle over her that she had not experienced since before her family died. This was what healing felt like, she realized. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of something strong enough to help carry it. They returned to truth or consequences together, riding side by side down the mountain trail. Katherine felt nervous about what people would say, how they would react to her returning with Cole. But when they arrived, they were greeted warmly. Father Miguel was particularly pleased, giving Katherine a knowing smile that made her blush. "Your patients missed you," the priest said, "but they managed, and I am glad to see you looking so much better, my child. The rest did you good." "It did," Katherine agreed, squeezing Cole's hand. Cole found work easily. His skills as a woodworker and his general handiness made him valuable to the small town. He rented a room above the general store but spent most of his time at Katherine's house, helping her with whatever she needed. He accompanied her on house calls, carrying her bag and providing a strong presence that seemed to comfort her patients. He chopped wood and fixed the leaky roof and made sure she ate regular meals. But more than the practical help, he gave Katherine something she had been missing for years: companionship. Someone to talk to at the end of a long day. Someone to laugh with and share the small joys of daily life. Someone who reminded her that she was more than just a healer, that she was a woman worthy of love and happiness. As the weeks passed, Katherine felt herself changing. The nightmares came less frequently. The crushing weight of responsibility felt lighter. She started to take better care of herself, resting when she needed to, saying no to non-urgent requests. And she began to notice beauty again, the way the sunset painted the adobe buildings gold, the sound of children laughing in the street, the feel of Cole's hand in hers. 3 months after Cole came to live in town, he proposed. It was nothing fancy, just the two of them sitting on her porch at sunset. He took her hand and said, "I love you, Katherine Rose. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Katherine felt tears streaming down her face, but they were happy tears this time. "Yes, yes, I will marry you, Cole Barrett." They were married a month later in Father Miguel's church with half the town in attendance. Katherine wore a simple white dress that Maria Santos had helped her sew, and Cole wore a new suit that made him look slightly uncomfortable but devastatingly handsome. As they exchanged vows, Katherine looked into his gray eyes and saw her future, a future filled with love and partnership, and the kind of healing that only came from opening your heart. Their first year of marriage was not without challenges. Katherine still had hard days, days when the weight of her past threatened to overwhelm her. There were patients she could not save, and each loss brought back echoes of her family's death. But now she had Cole to lean on, to hold her when she cried, to remind her that doing her best was enough. Cole had hard days too, moments when he missed the solitude of the mountains, the freedom of his old life. But he never regretted his choice. He loved Katherine with a fierce, steady love that never wavered. He learned about medicine so he could better assist her. He became a respected member of the community, someone people turned to when they needed help or advice. They talked about going back to the mountains sometimes, maybe building a cabin where they could spend their summers. Cole taught Katherine to trap and hunt, skills she never thought she would learn. Katherine taught Cole more advanced first aid, turning him into a capable assistant. 2 years into their marriage, Katherine realized she was pregnant. The news filled her with equal parts joy and terror. What if something went wrong? What if she could not protect this child the way she had not been able to protect her brother? But Cole was there, steady and calm as always. "We will face whatever comes together," he told her, "and our child will be loved and wanted and safe. You are going to be an amazing mother, Katherine." Their son was born on a warm spring day, healthy and loud and perfect. They named him Timothy, after Katherine's brother, and Miguel after the priest who had supported them both. Holding her son for the first time, Katherine felt something inside her finally, fully heal. The guilt and pain would always be part of her, she knew that now, but it did not define her anymore. She was a healer, yes. But she was also a wife, a mother, a woman who had learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let yourself be vulnerable. Cole had taught her that. He had shown her through his patience and steady love that healing was possible, even for the most broken of hearts. As little Timothy nursed, Cole sat beside Katherine on their bed, his arm around her shoulders. "You did it," he said softly. "You brought a new life into the world. We did it," Katherine corrected. "I could not have done any of this without you. You are stronger than you know. You always have been. I just helped you see it." Katherine leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling more content than she had ever thought possible. She thought about that day years ago when Cole had been brought to her, shot and bleeding. She had been so broken then, so lost. And now here she was, holding her child, surrounded by love, finally whole. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing something worth saving when I could not see it myself. For loving me even when I could not love myself." Cole kissed the top of her head. "It was the easiest thing I ever did. Loving you has never been hard, Katherine. It is as natural as breathing." The years that followed were good ones. Katherine continued her work as a healer, but she no longer let it consume her. She had a family now, a life beyond her profession. Cole worked in town during the busy seasons and took the family up to the mountains during the summers, where he had built them a larger cabin. Timothy grew strong and healthy, eventually joined by a daughter they named Grace and another son they called Samuel. Katherine taught her children about medicine, about compassion, about the importance of helping others. But she also taught them about balance, about taking care of yourself so you could take care of others. She taught them that it was okay to be vulnerable, okay to need help, okay to let people in. Cole taught them about the mountains, about self-sufficiency, about the value of hard work. But he also taught them about patience, about the kind of quiet strength that came from staying when things were hard. He taught them that love was not just a feeling but a choice you made every day. On their 10th anniversary, Cole and Katherine rode up to the mountain lake where he had first kissed her. They sat on the same blanket, looking at the same view, but everything was different now. They were different, shaped by years of love and challenge and growth. "You ever regret it?" Katherine asked. "Giving up your solitary life in the mountains," Cole laughed. "Not even for a second. That life was good, but this life is better. I have you, I have our children, I have a purpose beyond just surviving. You gave me that, Katherine. You gave it to me first. You showed me that my heart could heal, that I could be more than just my pain." "We healed each other," Cole said, taking her hand. "That is what love does. It does not erase the past or make everything perfect, but it gives you someone to face the hard things with. Someone to share the good things with. Someone to build a life with." Katherine squeezed his hand, looking at the mountains she had come to love as much as he did. "I could not have asked for a better partner. Neither could I." They sat there as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Katherine thought about the journey that had brought her here, from the broken girl in the wagon accident to the young woman drowning in grief to the healer who could not heal herself. And finally, to this moment, sitting beside the man who had taught her that healing was possible, that love was possible, that happiness was possible even after the deepest pain. She had spent so many years believing she was beyond saving. But Cole had shown her the truth. No one was beyond saving. Sometimes you just needed someone patient enough, strong enough, loving enough to help you see it. Someone who would not give up on you even when you had given up on yourself. As they rode back down the mountain toward home, toward their children and their life together, Katherine felt grateful. Grateful for the second chance she had been given. Grateful for the man riding beside her. Grateful for every hard step on the path that had led her here. She was the healer who could not heal her own heart, until a mountain man mended it with patience and steady love. And in doing so, he had given her not just a reason to live, but a reason to thrive. Together, they had built something beautiful, something lasting, something worth all the pain it had taken to get there. Their story was not one of instant transformation or miraculous healing. It was quieter than that, more realistic. It was the story of two broken people who found each other and chose every day to keep choosing each other, who learned that healing was not a destination but a journey, one best traveled together. And as the sun set on another day in their life together, Katherine knew with absolute certainty that she had found what she had been searching for all along. Not perfection, but partnership. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of love strong enough to carry her through it. Not a healer for her heart, but a companion for her soul. That was worth everything. Years later, when Katherine was in her 50s and their children had grown and started families of their own, she and Cole would sit on their porch in the evenings and watch the sun set over the mountains. They would hold hands, comfortable in the silence that came from decades of companionship. Sometimes they would talk about the early days, about how lost Katherine had been, about how patient Cole had needed to be. "I almost gave up," Katherine would admit. "That day you asked to come with me on rounds, I almost said no. I almost pushed you away like I had pushed away everyone else." "But you did not," Cole would remind her. "You took a chance. You let me in. That took more courage than you give yourself credit for. Only because you made it safe. You never pushed too hard. You just waited, steady as the mountains, until I was ready." That is what love does. It waits. It perseveres. It believes even when there is no reason to believe. Their grandchildren would visit often, running through the house with the same energy Timothy, Grace, and Samuel had once had. Katherine would treat their scrapes and bruises with a gentle touch, and Cole would tell them stories about the mountains and the adventures he had had. Together, they would pass on the lessons they had learned, about resilience and love and the importance of letting people help you. Timothy had followed in his mother's footsteps, becoming a doctor and practicing in Santa Fe. Grace had married a rancher and had 4 children of her own. Samuel had inherited his father's love of the mountains and worked as a guide, taking people into the high country. All of them were happy, well-adjusted adults who understood that strength came not from never needing help, but from knowing when to ask for it. On their 30th anniversary, the whole family gathered in Truth or Consequences for a celebration. Father Miguel, now elderly but still sharp as ever, presided over a renewal of their vows. As Katherine and Cole stood before their family and friends, repeating the promises they had made 3 decades earlier, Katherine was struck by how far she had come. She was no longer the broken young woman who could not heal her own heart. She was whole, scarred but strong, shaped by love and time and the steady presence of the man beside her. And that wholeness had allowed her to be a better healer, a better mother, a better person. She had learned that you could not pour from an empty cup, that self-care was not selfish but necessary. After the ceremony, as everyone gathered for a meal, Katherine found a quiet moment with Cole. They stood slightly apart from the crowd, watching their family laugh and talk and enjoy each other's company. "We did good," Cole said, his arm around her waist. "We did," Katherine agreed. "Better than I ever thought possible." "Do you ever think about what your life would have been like if those men had not found me on that trail, if they had left me there to die?" Katherine shuddered at the thought. "I try not to, but sometimes I do, and I realize that I probably would have continued the way I was going. Working myself to death, alone, miserable, never healing. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe, but it would have taken much longer and it would have been much harder. You saved me, Cole, just as surely as I saved you." "We saved each other," he corrected. "That is what makes us work. We are partners, equals, neither one trying to fix the other but both working together to build something better. As the sun set that evening, painting the sky in familiar shades of gold and pink, Katherine reflected on the truth of those words. Their marriage had never been about one person rescuing the other. It had been about two people choosing to face life together, supporting each other through the hard times and celebrating together in the good times. She thought about all the patients she had treated over the years, all the lives she had touched. She knew she had made a difference, had saved lives and eased suffering. But she also knew that she could never have done it if Cole had not first taught her to save herself. He had shown her that she mattered, not just as a healer but as a person, that her needs and wants and feelings were valid and important, and in learning to care for herself, she had become better at caring for others. She had learned to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, to take time to rest and recharge. She had learned that being a good healer meant being a whole person, not a martyr sacrificing herself on the altar of other people's needs. As the party wound down and their family began to leave, Katherine and Cole walked home hand in hand through the familiar streets of truth or consequences. The town had grown over the years, but it still had the same feel, the same dusty charm that had greeted Katherine when she first arrived all those decades ago. "You ever miss the mountains?" Katherine asked as they climbed the steps to their porch. "I mean, really miss them the way you lived before?" Cole considered the question. "Sometimes I miss the solitude, the simplicity, but then I come home to you and I remember why I chose this life. The mountains will always be there. But you, Katherine Rose Barrett, you are once in a lifetime. I would choose you over the mountains every single day." Katherine felt tears prick her eyes. Even after all these years, his words could move her. "I love you, Cole Barrett, with everything I am. And I love you. Always have, always will." They sat on the porch, rocking gently in the chairs Cole had built with his own hands. The stars came out one by one, bright in the clear desert sky. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. The night air was cool and sweet, carrying the scent of sage. "Tell me again," Katherine said softly. "Tell me about the day you woke up and saw me for the first time." Cole smiled. He had told this story many times over the years, but he never tired of it. "I woke up in pain, confused about where I was. And then I saw you sitting beside the bed, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. You were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, even with those dark circles under your eyes and your hair falling out of its pins. But it was not just your beauty that struck me. It was the sadness. You looked like you were carrying the weight of the world, and I knew, right then in that moment, that I needed to know you, really know you. Not just the healer, but the woman underneath. And I tried so hard to push you away," Katherine remembered. "You did, but I am stubborn. And I could see that underneath all that pain and fear was someone worth fighting for, someone who just needed to be shown that she mattered, that she was more than what she could do for others." "You saw me," Katherine said. "Really saw me. No one else had in so long. Because I recognized something of myself in you. We were both hiding, just in different ways. Me in my mountains, you behind your work, both of us afraid to let anyone get too close. And then you had the audacity to actually get close," Katherine said with a small laugh. "Best decision I ever made." They fell silent, content to simply be together. This was what they had built over 30 years of marriage. Not constant excitement or drama, but a deep, abiding partnership. The kind of love that did not need words because it was written in every action, every gesture, every shared glance. Katherine thought about all the young healers she had trained over the years, young women who came to her wanting to learn medicine. She always told them the same thing: take care of yourself first. You cannot heal others if you are broken. Find balance. Find someone who sees you, not just what you can do. Learn that asking for help is not weakness but wisdom. Some listened, some did not. But Katherine never stopped trying to pass on the lessons she had learned at such great cost. The lesson that Cole had taught her with his patience and steady love. That healing starts from within, but it is so much easier when you have someone to walk beside you. As they finally went inside for the night, Katherine took one last look at the mountains silhouetted against the starry sky. Those mountains had given her Cole. They had given her a place to heal, to remember how to feel, to learn what love really meant. They had watched over her journey from brokenness to wholeness. And tomorrow, she and Cole would wake up and do it all again. They would tend their garden. They would visit with neighbors. They would watch the sunset from their porch. They would hold hands and share stories and be grateful for another day together, because that was what life was about. Not the big dramatic moments, though those had their place, but the small, quiet moments of connection. The steady accumulation of days spent together, building something lasting. Katherine Rose had been the healer who could not heal her own heart, but Cole Barrett had mended it with patience and steady love. And together, they had built a life that proved healing was possible, love was real, and sometimes the best thing you can do is let someone help carry your burdens. Their story was complete now, a full life lived and well loved. And as Katherine drifted off to sleep that night, Cole's arm around her, she felt nothing but gratitude. For the journey, for the lessons, for the man who had seen her at her worst and loved her anyway. For the life they had created together, she was healed. Finally, fully healed. And it was everything she had never dared to hope for, the end.